Late one afternoon in October 2009, a 39-year-old software developer named Alistair left his Rodney Street office intending to visit a friend in Crosby, but as he reached the doorway of the building he caught a brief glimpse of a girl of about 20 standing on the pavement, and as he looked at her she smiled, ran sideways and vanished into thin air. A moment later Rodney Street underwent a strange transformation. The road changed from tarmac to cobblestones, and the traffic lights and the car vanished. A few seconds later the traffic lights and the modern road reappeared, and the car, and there was a burst of multicoloured light. The car reversed as a strange lump rose up in the roadway, and then everything returned to normal. Alistair went back into his office in a daze, and eventually realised that he had witnessed a phenomenon that is known as a time slip. The following story is an account of a man who experienced one of these time slips in July 1996 in Liverpool city centre. Frank, an off-duty policeman from Melling, and his wife Carol were in Liverpool one Saturday afternoon shopping. At Central Station the couple split up. Carol went to Dillon's bookshop in Bold Street to purchase a copy of Irvine Welch's book Trainspotting, and Frank went to a record store in Ranelagh Street to look for a CD. About 20 minutes later he walked up the incline next to the Lyceum, which leads out onto Bold Street, intending to meet up with his wife in the bookshop, when he suddenly noticed he had somehow entered what he called an oasis of quietness. Everything was deadly quiet, and then suddenly a small box van that looked like something out of the 1950s sped across his path, beeping as it narrowly missed him, and Frank noted that the van had the name Kaplan's emblazoned on its side. When the policeman looked down he noticed that he was standing in the road, and immediately thought this was strange because the last time he'd been at the bottom of Bold Street it had been pedestrianised. Frank crossed the road and he saw that Dillon's bookshop was no longer there. In its place stood a store with the name Cripps over its two entrances. The policeman was understandably confused. He looked in the window of Cripps and he saw no books on display but women's handbags and shoes. The policeman turned around and he saw that the people were wearing clothes that would have been worn in the 1940s and the 1950s, and this really unnerved him. He realised that he had somehow walked into the Bold Street of 40 odd years ago. Now suddenly Frank sighted a girl of about 20 dressed in the clothes of a mid-1990s girl, hipsters and a lime-coloured sleeveless top. The bag she carried had the name Miss Selfridge's on it, which really reassured the policeman that he was still somehow partly in 1996. It was a paradox, but the policeman was slightly relieved, and he smiled at the girl as she walked past him and entered Cripps. As he followed her, the whole interior of the building changed in a flash back to the interior of Dillon's bookshop. The policeman was back in his own time. He grabbed the girl by the arm at the entrance of the bookshop and he asked her, "Did you see that then?" And the girl calmly said, "Yeah, I thought it was a new shop that had opened. I was going to look at the clothes and it's a bookshop." The girl just laughed, shook her head and walked out again. Frank said the girl looked back again, shook her head in disbelief. When he told his wife about the incident, she said that she had not noticed anything strange, but Frank was really adamant that he had not hallucinated the episode. I gave an account of this strange incident on the Billy Butler show, and within minutes people were ringing me and Billy at Radio Merseyside to tell us that in the late 1950s and early 1960s there had been a store called Cripps in the exact location where Dillon's bookshop was standing at that time. It's now Waterstone's bookshop. And the caller said there had also been a firm called Kaplan's in existence around the same time. What's more, I also received letters and phone calls from listeners who had experienced strange things in that part of Bold Street where the policeman stepped into another era. A man who worked on the renovation of the Lyceum building in Bold Street said his digital watch went backwards for 2 hours one day, and on another occasion he put down his safety helmet, and when he looked down literally seconds later it had vanished, and yet no one was within 50 feet of him.